Srimati Harsimrat Kaur Badal. But 1 minute, on this issue,
Yes,
the Honorable Leader of the House has already given the answer.
Yes,
so would you like to raise it again? Because
Yes,
it has been raised.
I just want to reiterate another point, ma'am. I'll wind up in a minute. If that's what you say. I first of all want to thank... Ma'am, I first want to start by thanking you for allowing me to raise this very disturbing issue, which I think is a serious concern for all of us sitting over here. Ma'am, as it has come to light that yesterday you said that while we were celebrating 60 years of democracy, and this little plant of parliamentary democracy has now become a big tree. Madam, we seriously need to look at that what we are doing to the very roots of this parliamentary democracy. With great sadness, madam, when during the Anna Hazare Dharna, I noticed that hundreds of school children were actively participating against the movement of corruption and speaking out openly against politicians and the political system. It not only saddened and disappointed me, but also left me wondering as to the reason where 12-year-olds were in our textbooks. As a child, I remember reading about great leaders who were actually role models for us, starting from Pandit Ji to Mahatma Ji to Maulana Azad, to all these leaders who we used to look up to. It shocked me to see that today youngsters were not looking up to us politicians, but were actually holding us in very poor light. Madam, when recently I got a chance to interact with young school children aging between 13 years to 15 years, from class 9 to class 10, 12. And I asked them the reason for this sense of disgust, or I started off by asking them that how they would like to participate in nation building and how many of them would like to serve the country. And madam, you'll be horrified to know that out of the hundreds present, not one of them wanted to be a politician, but they all laughed at my face and said, why would any of us want to be a part of you looters, criminals, murderers and thieves? Ma'am, I was horrified to hear this. And when I asked them that why do they have these ideas, they said, madam, look at our textbook. Look what the television says. Look what the newspaper says. Look what the movies say. You watch movies like Rajniti and Ishq Zadeh. You watch television where every 9 o'clock, every news channel is just politically bashing the politician because their TRPs only go up if they say bad stuff about people. Nobody shows any good stuff about politicians. So, ma'am, today, if we are being perceived by the public, there's this wave of revulsion in the country against politicians, where we are often, anyone who calls us looters and murderers and criminals, the public seems to love it. Ma'am, we cannot control what the television shows or what the newspaper writes or what the movies show or what the magazines write. But if impressionable young minds of 13-year-olds are going to be shown cartoons like the politician treating the voter like a hungry dog, showing him rotis, and then gun-toting politician. Ma'am, I've distributed the cartoons there for everybody to see. But ma'am, what worries me is that what about those lofty ideals set forth by our seniors who talked about sacrifice for the country, who gave up all their comforts to serve the underprivileged, the movements, those fights set forth by those people. We are not only has the UPA government made a laughing stock of their own leaders and of revered leaders of other parties, but in that they have taught democracy in such an undemocratic manner that they have poisoned the minds of crores of children over the last 6-7 years, which can never be set right. Today, madam, it's not a question of these cartoons being removed. The question what I want to ask is, what about all those minds that have been poisoned? What about this wave of revulsion which is spreading in our country? Who is responsible for that, and how are we going to correct that? Madam, if we talk about right of education, but we don't look at the quality of education we are imparting, we are not only harming the country, we are weakening this very democracy where we are sitting. So, ma'am, I would like to request this House that just removing the cartoons is not enough. Today, if we only don't put up those high ideals set forth by our leaders and make role models out of them for the next generation to look up to, then we're already being branded by looters and criminals and murderers. 60 years down the line, when we look back at this day, no one's going to remember either us or the generations before us. So, ma'am, this is a very serious issue. It's not just something to contemplate and take away the cartoons. Yes, responsibility should be held. Why is the minister not been looking at what his textbooks are teaching? Who are the people who have made not just a laughing stock of their Congress party's leaders, but of every other leader and poisoned those minds? Why should their strict action not be taken in a time-bound manner? But how are we going to now reverse this trend and the damage that has been done in the last 7 years? That's what I would like to know.